So when I first heard about this series, I thought Peter being in space was going to be some struggle, some great new challenge for him to conquer and take on in an entirely different way. Yet so far, after defeating Xanto, the giant alien that captured him, he has been pretty much living on easy mode. Everything has been particularly right for him, and there hasn't been too much trouble on his part on adapting. Yet here might just be the start of his downfall and changing of everything. Though moving over, we pick up and see Peter back on Earth meeting Aunt May after the months and who knows how long away in space and elsewhere. Peter looking like his ultimate version of himself, and Aunt May just being glad that he's back and safe and whatever have you. Though we know right now Peter is in space, so this right here doesn't seem to line up, and it's more of a dream per se, or more accurately, a nightmare. It's just that she gets set on fire, literally dying in front of Peter by Hellgate, who is just this overarching and looming villain in the background who almost beat him to the brink of death, and is pretty much the only thing that motivates him and he sees when he closes his eyes. As just then he wakes up. Though this is just going to lead from one problem to another, as just then Rocket Raccoon barges into his room. Not only that, but it seems like Rocket has had a history with some shady aliens, and now they're here to collect as just an armada. A couple dozen ships just surround them and decide to take them in, taking them to another planet, the homeworld of their people. And Peter even goes on to say that he doesn't get to travel much. Usually there isn't enough money or time or even guts to step away from all of his responsibilities. But when he does go somewhere new, it always shocks him how quickly he can acclimate and adapt. Because here on a different planet in another part of the universe, him talking and bartering with alien civilizations, it's just like his normal hero life back in New York, just repackaged differently. Though of course the reason why he is here and these aliens dragged him in is because Rocket had debts that he didn't pay, and now with him going around doing good in the universe, whatever have you, people talk and cameras see, especially when the Black Order, who Peter defeated a very powerful member of the Black Order, Thanos' Black Order a little bit ago, means that this alien businessman has an incentive to capture them and cash them in. Now obviously that there is a way to solve this situation, because if they just wanted him dead, they could have just blew their entire ship out of orbit, even as Peter goes on to say. And the thing is, he is correct, because the alien goes on to say that even during the intergalactic chaos with everything going on in Imperial and the Wakandan Empire and whatever have you, the masses will pay through their breathing orifices for distraction. Continue on saying, are you familiar with the concept of a pay-per-view event? Spider-Man calling Peter out by his actual hero identity, his earthly hero identity. Which is crazy if you think about it, that Peter's reputation precedes him all the way into the universe. Like, I know realistically the universe is a large place, even more so in the Marvel universe, and Earth should just be a speck, a dot on that giant chart of the galaxies and whatever have you, yet always the heroes there get most of the screen time or most of the front-facing value, which the entire universe at large, through whatever means they have, also know this as well. The alien here goes on to say that you have fans far from Earth who would enjoy watching you and your team here, your comrades, participate in a good nature sporting event, Betty wrestling, which is going to be far from good nature like he is leading on here. And with nobody else on his little team here wanting to partake in Betty wrestling, that just leaves Peter, and he only has one real stipulation. If it makes this even with Rocket and clears his debt, he'll fight whatever as long as he doesn't have to kill it. Though like I said, this event is not as good natured as it seems, as Betty is just an entire like giant kaiju creature that usually crushes their opponent. So it's less wrestling and more of a gladiator fight to the death kind of arena. The alien, whose name is Dinwicket, goes on to say and introduce the two sides, even going on to call Spider-Man the hero of Earth here in the 616, which me myself, I didn't know before this that the actual inhabitants of the Marvel universe knew that their specific universe was Universe 616. Or at least not to the average person. Maybe someone like Reed Richards or your Dr. Dooms or whoever that frequently travels and goes to different universes might know that, but you know, that being average knowledge that the 616 is the main universe is an interesting caveat that I didn't know before. Even still though, knowing Spider-Man, knowing his abilities and what he can do, his entire team is just not sure that he can take this on. Though Xanto does say that his new suit, his flexi suit, should be able to provide him enough protection and offensive options to defeat the beast, which his new suit here is going to play a very important part going forward in a second. Even Rayolyft, the alien woman here on his team, goes on to say, why take on Rocket's debt this way and alone? Of course, her not understanding the role of Peter and him being a hero and wanting to self-sacrifice for others. And just keep an eye on her. She's an interesting case, because once you get to a part later on, I'm not sure how they're going to move forward with her and Peter specifically. But eventually, with enough talking, Peter lunges forward and gets ready for battle. Though he also goes on to say that how all of this is, yes, crazy, it's still just kind of normal to him. The talking and banter, the helping out a friend, a gangster who just happens to be an alien with 8 hands instead of the usual 2. This is just his normal and his usual, just different in a way, which kind of just speaks volume to his normal life and just human life on Marvel's Earth in general. But these two just go head to head. Peter getting the upper hand and winning, making comically large fists, swinging around the beast, knocking him off, and just getting the advantage over this ginormous creature. Though as this does happen, the announcers and commentators speak over him, encouraging the viewers watching to bet on this event, talking about their odds of winning and whatever have you. Though eventually one of the commentators let it slip that they are also betting on the Technarch, the actual suit he is wearing, which just throws Peter for a loop. Why would they not be betting on him but his suit? Which the realization just hits Peter and puts everything into perspective. This entire time, this suit has been alive, a living, or living in quotations, creature. And Peter, he has a very particular history with living suits and living creatures on his body. Now, from my understanding, Technarchs have a very interesting history because they are kind of like Venom, as I previously alluded to, except they're fully technological. They're more akin to an artificial intelligence like Ultron than they are to an actual living alien species, though their motives are kind of still the same. Whenever they're introduced to a species or new alien civilization, they only have 2 motives: to feed or to breed, which actually the Technarchs, the artificial intelligence, was created by an even higher level of artificial intelligence named the Phalanx, hundreds of thousands of years ago. So yes, like I said, it's very interesting and confusing a little bit too. But all you need to know for right now is that this one, for whatever reason, is slightly different. Jaded almost. So when Spider-Man finally figures out that, the suit is alive, he instantly wants it off of him. And the only reason why the suit isn't alive, speaking, or even possibly even malicious to Peter is because Xanto, while he had it, he restrained it and cut off all of its brain power, essentially turning it into a vegetable. Though there is a way to free and reboot the system, turning him back on. The only problem is now that this is the worst moment to do so, because not only does the suit make him stronger, but he is currently fighting for his life against a giant creature. But Peter says it anyway, rebooting the entire suit, momentarily turning the entire thing off, forcing him to do a T-pose as he just gets swallowed whole by the creature. Now again, here's where things get really interesting for Peter and the Technarch, because they are a lot more alike than you might think. And because they have bonded and connected, the suit has went all throughout Peter's body and mind, making them one, and for them to disconnect, they have to separate whose mind is who and which memories belong to which person. Us seeing glimpses of this Technarch's past, his parents and birth and his struggles and death. And even Peter, since him getting bit by that spider was kind of like his birth into becoming Spider-Man, maybe not his natural birth on Earth, but the point still stands. Him seeing Aunt May as his mother, if you will, and even the artificial intelligence seeing the memory of Hellgate and equating him to be Peter's father, because nothing screams being a father figure like getting beat to a bloody pulp in an inch of your life whilst getting told to get stronger. What a outstanding father. Continuing on, we see the same sort of similarities between the two. Before he was with Xanto, the Technarch was just floating hundreds of years through space alone until eventually meeting Xantos and giving his own body up and essentially himself to be used and experimented on and lose his own sense of self for the greater pursuit of science or whatever Xanto sold him on, which looking back now brings him great shame. Likewise, Peter sharing the same sort of shame and displeasure at a memory of his, one of Hellgate. After getting beat to almost the brink of death, Hellgate brought him off world and onto the planet. We saw him struggling at the beginning of this entire thing. Hellgate going on to say and call Peter the Prince of Steel Silk. Your homeworld survives at my pleasure, and you have lost your right to it. Should Nicodemu, who seems to be the overarching almost mastermind of whatever Hellgate is involved in, should you somehow survive this entire thing, stay here. And if you ever return to Earth, you will watch all you love and cherish be beat down and ground to powder beneath his boot. Which again just induces great shame into Peter. He can't even protect his own home and loved ones. Which, side note by the way, there's no way this little story arc ends without Peter getting the nastiest revenge and get back ever. Like, he just essentially took Peter from Earth, beat him, and told him, hey, never return, you survive in your entire world at my own pleasure, and you have lost your right to it. Meaning it's pretty easy to see why Peter wants to get stronger above all else. And with that, the two entities are finally disjointed and separated, leaving Peter almost naked on a battlefield, and us seeing the true form of this alien creature here, the Technarch, in which this artificial intelligence just goes on to tell Peter to call him Glitch, which kind of clues you in and further explains why he's different. He's almost a glitch in his own system. He isn't like the other ones of his kind who only have two purposes, to feed and to breed, yet why exactly we're not sure of. Though what we are sure of, that he essentially took care of Betty, this entire beast here, just effortlessly keeping his mouth open and keeping Peter protected. But while this is happening, of course the aliens here wanted to apprehend Peter and the rest of his group, as there's just constant battle and war waging down below and around everybody else. And thankfully Peter wasn't just naked underneath the suit, you know, he had some like underwear on, but he still is very vulnerable. So the Technarch being in his brain, he knows how much Peter values not being exposed, his identity for one, but also being almost straight up naked. So instead he gives him part of himself. You know, it's not as strong or as functional as having the full technology of the suit, but it will suffice for now, which I feel is a little bit of a cop-out, you know, like it gives Peter the best of both worlds. Yes, maybe a less advanced but still highly advanced suit compared to his normal one, and he doesn't have to feel the guilt of wearing around a living, or living in quotations, alien suit. Though the only bad side in all of this is that now that this artificial intelligence is alive, in his own usual people's mission is to feed on civilizations or breed and redirect different alien civilizations, and with Peter now wearing a part of him, if any moment, if he reverts to his base and true nature, you know, it's not going to end well for Spider-Man here, and everything he has built in space, and depending on how everything shakes out, could potentially be the end of him. For now though, he joins everybody else down below in the fight and eventually sweeps everything up. The Technarch, Glitch as he is known now, you know, communicates with the giant creature Betty and gets them on their side, as, you know, the creature itself didn't want to be just paraded as a beast, the animal to fight constantly in this Gladiator arena. And with this, the battle is over. They take down Dinwicket, free Betty, and whatever have you. And moving over later with them back on their ship and leaving, things only get more interesting from here on out, because with him in the lab working with Xanto, Peter goes on to say that even though it's less ideal, it was the right thing to do. Not even to mention that he does have a very complicated history with alien suits. Of course, referring to Venom, the symbiotes, and that entire arc right there. Though there is a caveat here, you know, the Technarch, Glitch, he originally was a willing participant. So it's not like he was forced against his will to be what he was. Though now, for a change of topics, Peter goes on to ask how everything is coming along, you know, the mission he was here for, to get stronger. Even though the alien suit is nice and does provide a power boost, no, he needs to get stronger than normal means, meaning enhancing himself and his biology physically, which in Xanto's case, I feel like this is going to be nothing more than just turning up the spider part of him and turning down the man part, taking his radioactive and mutated blood and just almost making him back into man spider. So yes, while he might be more powerful as that, he will essentially turn back into being a freak, but we will see how this entire thing plays out. For now, though, Rocket comes in eavesdropping on their entire situation, and frankly, him and some of the other crew are just not happy with Peter just being buddy science buddies with Xantos here, the same man that has captured and imprisoned them, experimenting on them for who knows how long. And while Xantos for Peter is only a means to an end, it still is a very valid concern, especially for someone like Rocket, who has a very bad history with being captured and experimented on himself. Though before Peter can follow and make it right with Rocket, he gets pulled aside and another issue arises, as now Rayalith from earlier comes to confront him about why Peter is the way he is, essentially asking why is he a hero and why does he do the things he does, because in her society and alien civilization, they value strength and being a warrior above all else. So why would he ever give up his strength, the Technarch, the suit, for the freedom of another life form? Peter's answer though is pretty simple and obvious. It was the right thing to do, in which Rayalith decides to just go in and start making out with the guy, Peter, just without his consent or permission. And even as she realizes this and apologizes, Peter just says it's all right. You do have the permission if you want. Of course, something is budding here, and we're going to see the exploration of this further on. Or at the same time, maybe not, because in the same instance, we see the same figure that has been alluded to almost behind everything arrive. Maybe not in the flesh, maybe it's more of a astral or mental projection, but they're here nonetheless, going to further on Peter's journey against Hellgate and whatever they are preparing him for. Which all of this just sets up next time when Peter finally dials in and dials down on the do or die situation with Hellgate. Get stronger or die trying. But that is the end of this issue and the end of this video. Though if you have enjoyed watching, leave a like or subscribe if you're new and want to see more content just like this. As always, this was AJ here at The Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.